St. Pierre, who is out of town at the moment, and we do have a quorum, so thanks to everybody who is here. And I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:11 p.m. So if we will all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. So, as I mentioned, Cliff is on vacation, and committee member Daryl Filarski emailed me that he is also out of town, and Kyle deBeausset was not able to make arrangements to be in person. We were expecting this to be on Zoom for a while. So that explains. Oh, and then member Dan Jaster submitted his resignation from the committee a while ago. So he was of great service to the committee, and we will be hard-pressed to fill his shoes. But we are looking forward to having Bill Stevenson join us. So, on the agenda is the approval of the November 2020 minutes.
I have copies if anybody doesn't have them.
Does anybody need copies?
I'll take one, John.
Sure.
We can take a few minutes to peruse those. I did bring a copy with me. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
November seems like a long time ago.
It was.
Do we have any discussion on the minutes?
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the minutes by the call of aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion to approve the November minutes is passed. Are there any revisions to the agenda?
Nothing here.
Okay. All right, so we can start on our reports. Carl, what's happening with the township?
Oh, thank you, Bert. Good to see everybody again. First of all, it is hard to believe it's been since November, and this is my first regular meeting where we've had face-to-face, human-to-human, person-to-person contact, and it is indeed good to see everybody. Four things I wish to report. Number one, Chairman St. Pierre was reappointed for another year. His term will run April 1 as chair until March 31 next year. The second thing is that our applicants for the Dan Jaster vacancy, we unanimously selected Bill Stevenson, who is present tonight. Bill, if you have anything you want to say or anything you want to address, come on up to the podium there for a minute and introduce yourself, if you would, please, to everybody here as well as everybody at home.
Yes, thank you. First off, thank you, Board, for the consideration, and I've long stood before you and admired the work that you have done and realize how important it is to the quality of life on Grosse Ile. And having also lived on Grosse Ile for more than 30 years, I know some of the changes that have taken place, but also some of the challenges that we have. And I know the Open Space Committee is a very valuable committee for the community, and like I said, the quality of life. And so I'm very honored to be able to join you if I'm approved by the Township Board at their next meeting. But again, anything we can do to help and make this a better place to live is what we're all about. So thank you.
Welcome aboard, Bill.
Thank you.
I'd like to just add a comment. Bill should be recognized and thanked for organizing a massive cleanup of open space trails that had been covered with debris and tires and old cars. He organized a cleanup with the Boy Scouts, and they did a monumental job cleaning up the open space near his home. And I think he's not only going to be a working member, but a active member that doesn't mind getting out and doing the heavy work that keeps our open space as clear of debris and navigable as possible. So I think it's going to be a grand addition to the Open Space Committee to have a working member who isn't afraid to get his hands dirty and do the actual work of the committee.
He has some big shoes to fill. Dan Jaster was our Dump the Junk chair, and he organized and worked with the DPS Commission, DPS Director Derek Thiel, and Dan was very active in working with the bridge, Kroger for donations of water and beverages, as well as Hungry Howie's. So Dan was a very valuable member of the commission, and unfortunately, he has moved over to the West River Yacht Club, which is their gain and our loss. But Pam, I share your sentiments. I think Bill will be fine. You have to respect someone who organized that outing for 4 hours and then had the scouts spend the next 2 weeks in his backyard cleaning up. So I think that's wonderful. A couple of other things very quickly. The Ferry Gauge Trail that we have worked on and finally have not only a rough trail through there that has been cut with TNT and ditched by Charlie Campo Brothers, but we now have a significant amount of wood chips down there to help facilitate it. I have walked that trail 3 times in the last 3 weeks after it has rained. The good news is that the water is in the ditch where it belongs. And the great news is that the trail by and large has been very, very dry. I have spoken with John Keim, and we have a couple of things that we want to tweak and put together, particularly in the swale, but John has been very, very helpful in the past, both with the Boy Scout cleanup that we were just talking about, as well as putting dumpsters out and taking care of business. John has just done a wonderful job, and Derek Thiel has been very, very supportive. So between those two gentlemen, we've got a lot of good things going. I do want to bring, on a side note, to those of you that are watching at home, if you have your Grosse Ile Connect, then you certainly are aware that we are doing registration for COVID. The COVID-19 vaccine registration deadline is Thursday, April 8 at 11 a.m. Grosse Ile residents 18 and older are eligible. Please sign up by going to the Grosse Ile Recreation.activityreg.com. That's GROSSEILERECREATION .activityreg.com. Go to the Recreation Department page and complete the online registration for the COVID vaccine. The creation of a registration account is required. Please print and bring the vaccination form with you, as well as the registration receipt. Now, if you do not have a computer, you do not have access, please call the Water's Edge Recreation Department at 734-675-0777. Again, 734-675-0777. And because this is so important, I'm going to repeat it. 675-0777, 18 years and older. They will have directions for the vaccine. One of the common questions we have is, what vaccine are we getting? The Johnson & Johnson one and done? Are we getting the Moderna? Or are we getting Pfizer? Or is there something else that's available out there? The answer is, this is a Wayne County driven and run program. We have GROSSE volunteers, but we will not know until the day before whether we're getting Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, or Moderna, or even something else. But the governor and the state of Michigan recently lowered the vaccination to 18 years and older. So please, if you want a vaccination, go to the website that I just gave to you, or make the phone call if you don't have access to a computer, 675-0777, and let's get everybody vaccinated and healthy. And please don't hesitate to call the rec center. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much, Carl. So my next report is for the GROSSE Nature and Land Conservancy, and we are having an event this Sunday. And I was just trying to look on Emma's phone because I can't remember if it's at 1 o'clock, which I think it is. But Bill, you know that? Oh, fantastic! You could even report on it. Is that at the?
It's going to be at the Gibraltar Bay, or
well, the airport natural area. Right. I've been working on the newsletter, and I left that off because I figured that the newsletters wouldn't be out by this week, so I kind of just passed through my head. Well, great. So everybody should come out to that. And we're also working on our Earth Day event, which this year is going to be Zoom. Last year we had to cancel our climate change focused events that were going to be at the high school and at Centennial Farm. So this year we're going to be having local experts speaking on a variety of topics, and the title is Climate Change in Your Backyard. So it's really focused on local impacts of climate change, and from everything from the weather to what birds are going to be at your feeder that will maybe be a surprise, how it affects fishing, planting zones that are changing, and things like that. So we're asking people, so that we don't get Zoom bombed, to contact us at our GINLC.education@gmail.com to get the Zoom link. And that's going to be on Earth Day, the 51st anniversary of Earth Day. That's Thursday, April 22nd at 7 p.m. So we hope to have a lot of folks joining us. And that's pretty much it for the Conservancy at the moment. And Kyle is not available, so we'll turn to Pam Frucci.
For the Beautification Committee, we're still down to only 3 members, but we're working with Carl Moore, who works with the township on lawn mowing and caring for the grounds. And we want to work with him to beautify the 3 corners. The southeast corner is maintained by the Garden Club, but we think with some volunteers we can plant, and with Carl Moore helping to clear weeds and mulch it, the northeast, northwest, and northeast, northwest, and
Southwest.
And the southwest, thank you, corners will have flowers planted come spring. And there was a kind of a campaign to maybe rename 4 Corners, but we got a letter from a resident who said it's been 4 Corners historically for years, And we kind of came up with the idea of floral corners, to still call it Four Corners, but give it a little more flowery name. But that's just a proposed name to it. And we're hoping that the Four Corners will be in bloom come, it looks like warmer weather is around the corner. And we'll have flowers planted, and then the garden club does a magnificent job with their southwest corner.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Emma, what's happening at the high school?
Okay, so I have a few updates for you guys. Unfortunately, Andy couldn't be here tonight because she has SAT preparation. So everything recycling related at the high school has been on pause since the beginning of the school year, for a couple reasons. Number one, they didn't want cross-contamination to occur between picking up the recycling bins and then people just throwing, like, a lot of times, like, plastic would end up in the bins and we would just have to touch that, and so they didn't want to put us at risk for getting COVID. So it has been on pause, but another reason is since that we're all online, there's actually no more paper handouts, so there wouldn't be recycling to do anyways, so I guess it's kind of a win-win situation. And then so the second thing was I got an email a few months ago from Jennifer, I don't know how to say her last name, Budziak, I believe. And she had proposed to me possibly making a trail. So I told her I would present the idea to the board. So her idea for the trail is behind the GROSSE post office, right by the playscape, would be the entrance to the trail. And then it would make sort of a loop up to, like, right behind the police station. And then back down, sort of tracing GROSSE Parkway, and then coming back around and ending again at the GROSSE Playscape. So it would be like a loop. And she had proposed that idea to me, and I told her I would present it at the next meeting. So that is all my updates, and I'm able to provide a picture if anyone would like to see it.
Okay, why don't you circulate that, and we can have some online discussion and then take it up at the next meeting.
All right.
We could attach it to the minutes.
Right.
That would be helpful.
All right, very good. Okay, John, I think you're going to report next
Yes.
at the next meeting.
Thank you.
The welcome letters. And so we have a member of the public who is soon to become a member of the committee. I don't, Bill, did you have anything else to add? All right. All right. So Carl gave us, some information about the ferry trail. I don't know if you have any more to add to that, because I don't.
The only thing would be to add that we do have more chips that are being delivered with the idea of making the trail significantly deeper so that we don't have the problem with the mud we've had in the past. Excuse me. What I meant to say was that we have wood chips that are continuing to be delivered to the site. TNT will be spreading those. It is our hope that we will have the chips there sufficiently layered to where they're going to provide long-term benefit. We're not going to have to maintain with new chips, fresh chips every year. I did have an opportunity to meet with a resident who's also a member of this commission, and he has done something similar with his yard where he's put in chips that are anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12, even 14 inches deep, and it has had a marvelous effect. So that is the conclusion of my report on the progress there. We hope to have that trail fully groomed and ready to roll by the end of June.
Okay, thank you. I know Cliff is working on this damaged sign replacement issue, And he said that the company that we had worked with previously, I think they went out of business due to the COVID crisis. And so I did give him the name of a company that Conservancy is using. We're talking about replacing some signs and also adding signs to some newer properties. So that can come up again at the next meeting. And I understand from Daryl's, so for the action items, I understand from an email from Daryl that he communicated with you, Carl, about the Centennial Farm Trail.
Very little, very lightly on that. Daryl was the resident that I spoke to and saw
okay.
what he had done with his yard. But we did not really talk too much about Centennial Farm, although Daryl does have, and I visited his home last Saturday. He does have a tractor with a front end bucket as well as a grade blade on the back that would be of real benefit. And I have asked Daryl to get us some kind of an idea what he would want to do in terms of the equipment, leasing and operating, and however he wants to do that so we can keep the cost down as much as possible. Certainly don't expect we would have a total volunteer with something that is expensive to run and maintain, but he and I have promised to revisit the issue and come back with a recommendation to this committee. And we can then move forward with some maintenance, and it might even be able to save us some money with spreading in the chips and doing the grading. So fingers crossed, and Daryl was very warm and open to any ideas we have. So if we have an idea about that trail, maybe that's a good place to start as a pilot project. It's not a terribly deep trail, and it's not terribly complicated, and I think maybe we could see what the cost savings on that would be. Every dime we can save is a dime of taxpayer money that doesn't have to be spent, and I think that's very valuable. So that was what we had talked about, and when he comes back, I think we should plan on taking a look to see what he has in mind so everybody on the committee can then make a informed judgment and recommendation to the board.
Great. Okay, thank you for that information. Before we ask Teresa about the bridge over the Meridian Open Space Creek, I did want to mention that it's my understanding that that Boy Scout cleanup of open space, that Teresa had a big role in identifying, where the stuff was so that it was easier for the brawn to go out after the brains had done some technology and identify what was there. So thank you so much, Teresa, for that. And thank you, Bill, and the Boy Scouts for taking care of that. I know my husband and other Conservancy volunteers have been working at the airport natural area literally for months now, cleaning out the stuff that was left by the Naval Air Station in their dump. And it's literally thousands of pounds of mostly metal, but things like dryers and washing machines and fence and just literally tons of stuff that has just been there and is finally coming out. And so that space is becoming more attractive to walk in. And on that note, the Refuge Gateway over on West Jefferson in Trenton is now open 7 days a week during daylight hours. So things are looking up. But anyway, back to Teresa.
There's not much to report at this point. Without Cliff here, we had some discussions. He wanted to look at maybe some different directions other than directly with Wayne County to look at a bridge over that creek. But the idea is to gain access across the creek that goes and splits the west end from the east end of the Meridian Woods section. Right now there's a couple trees that are falling down through there, and that could lead to some people crossing over and maybe getting hurt or what have you. But so there's a little element of safety there, but also it would just be nice to be able to cross if you were biking through, to be able to go from Meridian to East River when we eventually, you know, expand the trail down that way. So whether it's you know, a Boy Scout thing, a Wayne County thing, and the creek also needs to be cleaned up from Wayne County too. So it's kind of twofold on how we want to approach that. But no progress right now, so to speak. But ideas churning, I guess.
Teresa or Carl, is TNT available for kind of emergency tree clearing?
TNT is available. Cliff has arranged that previously, so I think it would behoove us to have Cliff if there is a question. Even though Cliff is on vacation, he's been very accessible. So if we find a storm, I have walked, again, some of the ferry trail, ferry gauge trail, and that is in very good condition. The trees are all good. I believe we did have some deadfall in the Meridian Woods Trail, and I know that was brought to Cliff's attention, but I don't know if Cliff contracted with TNT to do that. But given the nature of Michigan weather, and we look at a lot of storms in April and early May, I think this is a time when we should expect something like that to happen. And I think Cliff's going to be back in 2 weeks, if memory serves me correct. So if we have anything, I would suggest if you're out walking a trail, whether it is the one in the Wildlife Sanctuary or Meridian Woods or another trail, and you see something down, give Cliff St. Pierre a call, and he will notify TNT. We do have funds for that, and they've been very responsive, but I think it's good to have it through a central one person, one central office, if you will, and then Cliff can run with that. So,
Right.
Any important function like that needs a backup.
I would agree. And
Situation that Teresa described sounds potentially dangerous.
the trees, I think, if I'm recalling correctly, when I was back there with Bill, and hats off to Teresa for walking, I think, just about every square foot of that property there. There is a lot of acreage there. When Bill and I walked back there, he showed me some of the deadfall that's fallen in there. I think that's something that TNT should be able to assess and address and make a recommendation to Cliff, as long as we don't go over the dollar amount for something like that that requires bids. So if we can stay cognizant of the fact that if it is $5,000 or more, we have to look at bids, and that's important so that we comply with the township rules and ordinances. But my recollection, Bill, is it looked like a lot of that deadfall, and I didn't see where it had dammed up, but it certainly slowed the process or progress of the water, the drainage. But some of that looked like it had been there for quite some time. And,
yeah, it's not new deadfall. It's been there a long time, and a couple of the trees across are pretty big, massive. So, and that woods, in my opinion, is going to require. I think it would be a good candidate for a plan to incorporate some of the township people, residents, to maybe do a wood clearing. It would be a good woods for a prospective opening up to cutting the downfall if someone wanted to collect wood where there are fires and stuff like that. I believe that's been done in other areas, and that would be a good woods to do that in my opinion.
Yeah, we've had that project for quite a while. I know, I think for the ease of the people doing the cutting, usually they probably select trees that are closer to the road. But, so wherever that
Yeah, if we
that happens.
coordinated some sort of access maybe, or retrieval of what they cut, I think it could be productive. It's definitely not a small task to make that happen, but I think it can be done.
Yeah, and speaking to what you were saying, Carl, about a month or two ago, my husband and I were walking in Meridian Woods, and there was a new dead tree that fell across the trail, and I told Cliff, and then we were just there about a week ago, and it was gone. So,
Good.
so Cliff does follow up, and things disappear. So. Alrighty. Now this is going to be a challenge here. So the big question is, do we want to do a dump the junk event this year? And if so, who wants to be the lead on that?
Bert, we have previously discussed, last year we had looked at the events previously. We have done 2, and then we dropped down to 1
Right.
because of the cost. I don't know how everybody else feels, but my concern is that if we schedule 1 for the spring and 1 for the fall, we have seen a lot of uptick in the COVID cases in Michigan, certainly for the last 2 weeks, although the latest statistics suggest that that's coming down. I don't know if the spring break has had any impact or where that's going to be. I'd like to know what everybody else feels, but I'm a little concerned about handling materials and having interfacing with people that are bringing stuff in, throwing it in there to the various dumpsters in the spring. I certainly would recommend that we do something for the fall, but I, again, leave that up to everybody else, but those are just the concerns that I have. And we also have to look at the fact that the county bridge is closed, so we're going to be having increased expenses with bringing dumpsters and the trucks, dropping off the dumpsters to the DPS yard, and then picking them up in a week after and taking them back over. And I don't know what the cost of that will be. That was something that Dan Jaster was very, very involved with and spearheaded it, which gets back to what John was saying a moment ago about having a plan B. I would think that perhaps Dan would be a good access for information on that, but I think we need to define whether or not we want to do something spring, fall, or fall. And I look to hearing what you have to say and what everybody else on the commission wants to do. And I would be very interested in seeing that, and even if Dan would be interested in coming back. He just did such a great job. So,
Should we go down the line and give our opinions?
I feel like Carl has a really good point in terms of like when people are bringing all their garbage to one person, I feel like that puts that person at extreme risk for contracting COVID. So I feel like it would be if that person felt comfortable or not working with Dump the Junk, but I feel like a fall event would be fairly ideal. I feel like a spring one might be a little bit rushed if we tried to plan that, just because it is already April 6th. I don't know when the spring event was last year, but I feel like our best option would be to plan a fall one and plan it really well. That way we know what's happening with the bridge. We have like a more clear idea of costs and everything like that. That's how I feel about it.
Okay, I'll weigh in and echo those comments. I think by the fall there'll be just that many more people vaccinated, and hopefully the numbers will be drastically reduced instead of increasing. And like you say, I mean, we've lost our planning time, so we certainly don't want to do it in the dead heat of summer. So the fall sounds good to me.
I agree with everything that Emma and you said, and I think it should be the fall and only the fall.
Okay.
Ditto.
Okay, so do we need a motion for that? Or we'll just say that We will,
Consensus?
okay, so, all right, so by consensus, we are putting Dump the Junk to the fall, and we will be giving ourselves time to find a lead and really work out the complexities of scheduling that in during COVID and with the closed bridge and everything. I mean, that the bridge itself is a big complication. So,
Madam Chairperson, I would be willing to talk with Dan Jaster to see if he is interested in participating and lending a hand, or because he's not here, we could just appoint him to do it. I would like to talk with Dan and have an opportunity to discuss what our options are and what he would recommend. He has done, he's only done it several times, but each time was just better than the last. And Woody had done a great job over the years, and Dan just has picked up and run with it. So I think that would be good.
Well, to be fair to Dan, obviously, you still need to appoint a person to lead. So.
right, I was taking that as a joke, because I don't think we have any appointment power. But we certainly have the ability to wheedle, persuade, and beg. So do your best, Carl, because that would be great.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we have come to the end of our agenda. If there's anything that anybody else, and I see a hand.
Madam Chair, I was remiss earlier in that I did not bring up the idea that under the Open Meetings Act, as a governmental body, we are required at our first meeting for the annual establishment of when we will meet for the coming fiscal year, being April 1, 2021 through March 31, 2022. The Open Meetings Act requires us to schedule our monthly meetings at the first meeting, and this is the first meeting of the new fiscal year. It's also the first time when we've really all been able to get together and see each other face to face. But I would move that we establish our regular meetings as the first Tuesday of each month in this room at 7 p.m. as prudence allows, and prudence being what the state of Michigan is doing with COVID. And if need be, we could go back to the Zoom meetings. But I would propose that we establish a meeting schedule the first Tuesday of each month, 7 p.m., and in this room unless otherwise determined.
Excluding December?
And with December being the exception, John, thank you. I know traditionally we have not met in December, and I would look forward to having a schedule every first Tuesday, 7 p.m., with the exception of December. And thank you.
I thought we didn't meet in July and August, too. Right?
I don't think we meet in July.
Right.
That's right. We have not.
So, okay, so for those 3 months, we will not be meeting unless there's something really pressing that requires our attention.
Bert, I have a sidebar.
Well, here, wait. So
Okay.
that was a motion, right?
That is correct.
So is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Our regular meetings will be the first Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. in this room, unless we need to switch to Zoom, excluding July, August, and December. All right, thank you. And Pam?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something. I write for the local paper, and my interview was with a guy named Terry Eifert, who lives by open space up, he's on Voight. And he was hoping that we would provide more trails through open space, because he said it's a great way to get people outdoors and not just drive by the woods, but actually experience a walk in the woods. And I have a little clipping here that I've had for a long time that I'll just read the first quote. A study revealed that a 15-minute walk in the woods resulted in a 16% decrease in the stress hormone and a 2% drop in blood pressure and a 4% drop in heart rate. So it's healthy as well as a wonderful opportunity to join our open space on Grosse Ile. So Terry, in my interview, he said he was hoping that we could provide more trails through open space. And there's open space on Meridian Road before the thoroughfare canal between Ferry and Macomb that's never had a trail through it. And a trail there would take you right to the waterfront of Thoroughfare Canal. And I'm visualizing a little platform where people could sit and just enjoy a water view for a trail. So I would hope in the future we might look into more possibilities of trails. We already have quite a few, and I think people should know that they're walkable and a good way to experience nature up close and not just drive by our open space.
Well, that's true. And this sounds, so we have interest in a trail and by the playscape, by the post office, another one by, I'm trying to picture where Voight is and where that open space is. But it sounds to me.
First road going east-west north of Bridge.
Terry said in the past there have been some of his neighbors that said they don't want it open to the public because they don't want strangers walking through their woods. But I think we've got to get across that it's not their woods, it's community access to property that they've bought. The whole community has bought the open space.
Well, that's very true. And that kind of brings up the issue of encroachment and dumping on open space and why we as committee members need to be vigilant in monitoring the open spaces that we're assigned to because that does happen. And there is a certain sense of possessiveness by people whose property adjoins open space, and we need to recruit them to be friends of open space and help us maintain it. And so it leads to probably the need for a committee to talk about trails, and also the need to think about how do we raise money for maintaining these properties and building the trails that people want. Because that revenue source ended, and we are working on that money that was raised, but that doesn't last forever. And the more trails we get, the more it costs to remove dangerous trees and to keep adding wood chips and things like that. So this is an amenity of Grosse Ile that all the neighbors, all the residents benefit from, and so we're going to have to scratch our heads and think about all these things, getting more people involved in how we're going to raise money to maintain this amenity. But thanks for sharing that, because that adds to the list of interest and the list of issues that we're dealing with. Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Motion to adjourn from John Mayer, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we are adjourning the meeting at 7:55. Thank you everyone for coming and for staying safe, and happy spring. Good to see everyone.